Hear that? Nothing? Me neither. But that's the perfect spot for your company's name to step into the spotlight. Become an underwriter for As You Mic It and let every episode be your curtain call. Slip a note to podcast@pashakespeare.org for more information.
Hello, friends, and welcome back to As You Mic It, the Prologues, your pocket companion to Pennsylvania Shakespeare Festival's 2025 Undiscovered Countries Summer Theater Series. I'm Connie Berenger, Associate Producer here at PSF, here to set the stage before you take your seat. Our prologue is a quick companion episode designed to arm you with plot essentials, thematic touchpoints, and a few production gems so you can step into Labuda feeling like an insider. Today's focus, Hamlet, Shakespeare's masterwork of grief, intrigue, and the perilous search for truth, running in repertory with Rosencrantz and Guildenstern are dead. To navigate Elsinore's winding corridors is our Director of Education and Community Engagement, Kim Carson, your guide through the ghosts, grappling, and razor-sharp rhetoric that keeps Hamlet evergreen in every age.
Thanks, Connie. All right, let's talk about Hamlet. This is one of my all-time favorite Shakespeare plays. The characters are complex, even ambiguous at times. The main character unloads all of his inner thoughts right onto the audience. There's a great sword fight. There's broken hearts. There's great advice to actors. It's an amazing look into human psychology, and it's even a bit of a ghost story. From the first words of the play, Shakespeare is giving the audience a sense of unease. It's midnight on the misty battlements of Elsinore Castle in Denmark, where our play is set. And a guard called Bernardo, coming on duty, nervously calls out, "Who's there?" And the man who is already on duty and about to be relieved, Francisco, retorts, "Nay, answer me, stand and unfold yourself," because it's his job to ask who's there. And in his anxiety, Bernardo got it wrong. And in that brief exchange, the unsettling tone of the play is set. The guards are jumpy. Why? Well, we learn with the entrance of two more characters, Horatio and Marcellus, that they have seen an apparition during their watch the last couple of nights. And sure enough, again, this night at midnight, the ghost appears, but will not speak. And Bernardo describes the ghost in the same figure like the king that's dead. Horatio believes that this apparition is a terrible harbinger, that things are not right in Denmark, and we're not really sure yet. Is this indeed the ghost of the dead king, or some sort of usurper like a demon or other entity, something like that, which is a really scary thought too. And Horatio makes a speech about this in the first scene. And in that speech, he also tells us some exposition that the older Fortinbras, the Norwegian king, has been defeated, and his son, also called Fortinbras, has gotten some lawless resolutes, as Shakespeare calls them, marching toward Denmark to challenge them and avenge his father's death. And this means that Denmark is facing a real, imminent external threat, but it may turn out that the true threat is internal. At the end of the first scene, Horatio runs to tell Hamlet, the dead king's son, that he's seen something here, and there is this ghost who looks like the Hamlet's father haunting the battlements. This is such a creepy and smart way to start a play, because no matter what happens next, the audience is very much aware that the ghost of the dead former king is haunting the castle. And this is undeniably true. In the second scene, we get what might be regarded as a more conventional first scene sort of feel. The court is meeting in a formal session provided over by the current king, Claudius. Claudius seems confident, he's eloquent, he's in full control. But we in the audience are still thinking about that dramatic opening scene. Our first feeling is unease. And we can't listen to Claudius without being very much aware that his predecessor is rumored to be haunting the place. And this opening scene sets up so much of this enormous play, I think, which is really full of unforgettable characters and dramatically satisfying scenes. But I would argue that so much of what's to come is portended in that first scene. Questioning, identity, appearance versus reality, revenge, mortality, this world teetering on the edge of chaos. And those are some of our themes that I just listed there that I'll talk about in a few minutes from now. With the rest of the play now, we get to watch all of this unfold. Now that the audience is appropriately unnerved, let's talk a little bit more about the plot. After Hamlet's father, the king, dies suddenly, Hamlet's uncle Claudius quickly marries Hamlet's mother, Gertrude, and becomes the new king. Hamlet is visited by his father's ghost, who reveals that Claudius murdered him by pouring poison in his ear while he slept. And devastated and enraged, now Hamlet has to go figure out, is what the ghost said true? And if so, he must avenge his father's death. So while plotting his next steps, he begins acting erratically and feigning madness, although we could debate for hours as to whether Hamlet actually goes a bit mad or if it's all an act. But during this time, it's really difficult for Hamlet to know who he can trust. So he rejects Ophelia, his love interest, and the daughter of the royal advisor Polonius, while Claudius and Polonius are spying on them. They had hoped to find a reason for Hamlet's sudden change in behavior, but the encounter with Ophelia doesn't give them any answers that they're looking for. So Claudius summons Rosencrantz and Guildenstern, who are a couple of old buddies of Hamlet from university, to find out what's going on and then report back to Claudius. And their arrival coincides with a group of traveling actors that Hamlet happens to know. Now, to confirm his uncle's guilt, Hamlet arranges for the actors to perform before the court, and the play that he devises will mirror his father's murder, and Hamlet will keep an eye on Claudius to see how he reacts. Well, when he sees one character pour poison in the other's ear, Claudius freaks out. He storms out of the performance, and now Hamlet becomes convinced that he is indeed guilty. And now Hamlet feels free to enact his vengeance/justice. So Claudius now pretty much immediately begins plotting to have Hamlet sent away and killed. The first chance Hamlet has to kill Claudius is while he's praying, and Hamlet hesitates because of this, not wanting to send Claudius to heaven, so he waits for his next chance. So here's the next chance. It's this pivotal scene where Hamlet confronts his mother in her chambers. Does she know what's going on? He compares Claudius to the dead king. It's a very dramatic scene. But he discovers that someone is spying on them, hiding behind a tapestry. Believing this spy to be Claudius, he acts fast, and he stabs through the tapestry, killing the person behind it. And unfortunately, turns out this was not Claudius, but Polonius. And this sets off a chain of tragic events. Ophelia goes mad with grief and ultimately drowns. Her brother, Laertes, seeks revenge against Hamlet. And Claudius, who is yet living, decides to send Hamlet to England, and his plan is to have Hamlet killed. Now, Hamlet is on the way to England by sea and decides instead to return home and sends his friends Rosencrantz and Guildenstern in his place, where we hear they ultimately meet their demise. The play culminates in a deadly fencing match between Hamlet and Laertes. Claudius arranges for Laertes to use poison. He dips the tip of the sword in the poison, and he also prepares a poisoned cup of wine as a backup plan. But in the ensuing chaos, Gertrude drinks the poisoned wine. Laertes wounds Hamlet with the poisoned blade, and Hamlet wounds Laertes with the same blade. And of course, Hamlet finally kills Claudius. The play ends with Hamlet, Laertes, Gertrude, and Claudius all dead, while Hamlet's true friend Horatio lives on to tell their story. Now, anytime I'm reading or watching a play, I'm always thinking about, okay, that's the plot, right? That's what happens, but what's the point? What am I here to think about? And again, this is why I love Hamlet so much, because there are so many interesting things to think about. The play explores some fascinating themes and universal ideas: mortality, the complexities of action, reality versus appearance or performance. And given that immediate sense of unease that we have as an audience, and even through some really humorous moments, there are a few ideas that keep drawing me back to this play after years, and what I imagine draw audiences back after more than 400 years since the play was first performed. The first theme that I want to talk about, and probably the most obvious, is about mortality. The mystery of death. In the aftermath of his father's murder, Hamlet is grappling, obsessing even, with mortality, the idea of death. And over the course of the play, Shakespeare has Hamlet, and therefore the audience, consider death from many perspectives. And when you come and see the play, when you come and see Hamlet, look for a couple of different sides to it, the way it's explored, right? There's the spiritual side of it, that questioning of what happens after we die. And this is explored by the appearance of the ghost and, of course, Hamlet's famous soliloquy in Act 3, Scene 1, to be or not to be. But we can also look for those physical reminders of death that Shakespeare includes, those well-known lines, "Alas, poor Yorick, I knew him, Horatio." This scene takes place in a graveyard, and Hamlet is literally holding the skull of an old friend. And consider this. Death is both the cause and the consequence of revenge, which is the play's main action, right? It is Claudius's murder of King Hamlet that initiates Hamlet's quest for revenge. And it's also Claudius's death that is the end of the quest. So let's think about another theme now, appearance versus reality. And I want to lump the theme of performance into this one as well. Again, when you come and see the play, you'll see and hear a lot of references to performance of all kinds in the play, both theatrical performance, but also the way people perform in daily life. For example, in his first appearance, Hamlet draws this distinction between outward behavior, he says actions that a man might play, and real feelings, that within which passeth show. However, the more time we spend with Hamlet, the harder it is to tell what he's really feeling and what he's performing for others in the court. He announces in Act 1, Scene 5, that he's going to pretend to be mad. He says, "I'm going to put an antic disposition on." And in Act 2, Scene 1, Ophelia describes Hamlet's mad behavior as this sort of comical performance. And Hamlet tells Rosencrantz and Guildenstern that he is only mad when the wind blows north-northwest. However, later when Hamlet tells Rosencrantz and Guildenstern, "I have lost all my mirth," he seems genuinely depressed, dealing with some real mental health issues there. And referring to his murder of Polonius, Hamlet refers to himself in the third person, and he says, "Who does it then? His madness." One of the central questions about the character Hamlet is whether he genuinely descends into madness or if he is only pretending to be mad. Performance/appearance versus reality. And I would love our audience members to pay really close attention to the actor playing Hamlet, Biko Eisenmartin, and see what you think about this matter. I can't wait to see Biko's interpretation of the character, and I know everybody here at the Shakespeare Festival, we're all so excited to see his performance. He's a wonderful actor. Speaking of performance, Hamlet further explores the idea of performance by regularly reminding the audience that we are watching a play. This is something that I personally find really fun, and I can nerd out about this when it comes to this play. Polonius says that he, at university, did enact Julius Caesar. That's in Act 3, Scene 2. And Shakespeare's audiences in that time would have thought of Shakespeare's own Julius Caesar, as I think we do now, a contemporary audience. When you think of Julius Caesar, you think of Shakespeare's Julius Caesar. And that was written around the same time as Hamlet. It's probably true that the actor who played Polonius, scholars believe, may have been the same actor who played Julius Caesar in Shakespeare's time. So there's this sort of meta moment there where he's reminding the audience that we are in fact actors in this play. And the device of the play within the play gives Hamlet further opportunities to comment on the nature of theater. Hamlet himself points out that acting is powerful because it's indistinguishable from reality. The purpose of playing, he says, is to hold as 'twere the mirror up to nature. And that's why he believes that the players can catch the conscience of the king. So watch for those reminders that Shakespeare gives us to think about the fact that something fake can feel real, and vice versa, and how it makes us question what reality actually is. The next theme I hope our audiences think about is the complexity of action. So many folks talk about Hamlet's inability to act, and that this is maybe a major character flaw, right? I don't always think of him that way, though I do love the discussion and the debate around it, and that debate really lies in the complexity of action. Hamlet was sort of the first play that dealt with psychology of a main character the way that it does, well before the term or study of psychology was actually invented. Because of all the inner workings of Hamlet's mind, which he shares with the audience, the action we expect to see from Hamlet is continually postponed, while Hamlet tries to obtain more certain knowledge about what he's doing. This play poses many questions that other plays would simply take for granted. Think about these questions in regard to our characters. Can we have certain knowledge about ghosts? Is the ghost what it appears to be? Would the ghost have reliable knowledge about its own death? Can Hamlet know the state of Claudius's soul by watching his behavior? If so, can he know the facts of what Claudius did by observing the state of his soul? Can we know whether our actions will have consequences that we want them to have? All of those sorts of things. So many questions, so many uncertainties for our main character and for us humans in the world, right? So many people have seen Hamlet as a play about indecisiveness and Hamlet's failure to act appropriately. But I want to posit, maybe, consider that the play shows us how many uncertainties our lives are built upon and how many unknown quantities are taken for granted when people act or judge others' actions, right? So this leads me to the complexity of action, right? How is it possible to take reasonable, purposeful action, particularly for a character like Hamlet, where crowns and lives are at stake? In Hamlet, the question of how to act is affected not only by rational considerations, such as that need for certainty, but also by the emotional and psychological stuff that he's going through. Hamlet searches for truth while also dealing with his grief and his own mortality. And when he does act, he does it blindly, recklessly, violently. He sets off that chain of reaction we talked about of further tragic events. I'm talking about when he thinks he's killing Claudius and he actually kills Polonius. The other characters obviously think much less about action in the abstract than Hamlet does, and so they're less troubled by what their actions mean. They simply do what they want. But I really wonder what you think of this question. In some sense, are they proving that Hamlet's right to be cautious in his action? Because so many of their actions end badly, and Hamlet's rash action ends badly as well. Claudius possesses himself of queen and crown through bold action, but his conscience torments him, and he's beset by threats to his authority. Of course, in the end, he dies. Laertes resolves that nothing will distract him from acting out of his revenge, but he's easily influenced and manipulated into serving Claudius's desires, and in the end, he dies as well. So it's just a fascinating consideration that I wanted to talk about with our listeners. What was Shakespeare really trying to get across? Or what do you feel when you watch the show this summer? What is it that you're getting from it, right? How do we act unless we're certain? But how can we be certain enough to act on anything, particularly when lives and crowns are at stake? So when you watch Hamlet, I hope you'll be looking to debate these questions with the folks who come with you. There's one more theme I want to discuss here, and that is the nation as a diseased body. Throughout the play, characters draw connections between the moral legitimacy of a ruler and the health of a nation. And Denmark is frequently described as a physical body, made ill by the moral corruption of Claudius and Gertrude, and many observers interpret the presence of the ghost as a supernatural omen indicating, to quote the play, something is rotten in the state of Denmark. The dead King Hamlet is portrayed as this strong, forthright ruler under whose guard the state was in good health. And Claudius, this wicked politician, has corrupted and compromised Denmark to satisfy his own appetites. And at the end of the play, only Horatio is left to tell the story of what happens here. What a fascinating, wonderful play this is. It really gives us so much to think about, and it really does have a bit of everything. I'm incredibly excited. We're all incredibly excited to share this amazing story with our audiences. So let's talk about our production just a little bit here as we're coming to the end of our podcast. Our wonderful director, Lindsay Smiling, who has been a friend to the PA Shakespeare Festival for years. He's an actor, a director, and now he's one of the artistic directors at the Tony Award-winning Wilma Theater. He chatted with me the other day, and he gave me some things to think about for our upcoming production. And I'll share a few of those things with you here now. But if you'd like to hear more from Lindsay Smiling, listen to the episode titled Parallel Paths when he chats a bit more with Jason King Jones. One of the things I really loved is how he talked about the idea of this production being in its own world. It won't be strictly period, but it won't be strictly contemporary either. So you will see things that you might see walking down the street in Philadelphia today, but you might see those hints of Renaissance garb as well. So this reinforces the idea that the themes of Hamlet, the things that it explores, are timeless. And Lindsay is interested in what Hamlet has to say about today, right now, right? What's the focus? Shakespeare's plays are incredibly relevant. You just need to point to it, Lindsay says. The most famous speech of the play was a jumping off point for him to be or not to be. Lindsay's interested in exploring this speech as a greater idea, and he's also interested in exploring the idea of generational violence, that cycle of violence passed from father to son, from Polonius to Laertes, from Fortinbras to Fortinbras, from the king to Hamlet. I killed, was killed, now you must kill, right? And we'll see how that full examination manifests scene to scene this summer. This leads me to the last idea I want to share with you from my conversation with Lindsay. He's noticed this interesting thing, particularly in America, where we have this great reverence for the writing of Shakespeare, the literary focus of it. But he's really excited about challenging that and focusing on the moment-to-moment performance of it. What's happening with human beings in the room, right? He wants this production to move someone, to shake someone, stir somebody, and he feels this is great material to do that. I can't wait to see the drama play out. I hope you come and see Hamlet at Pennsylvania Shakespeare Festival on stage in rep with Rosencrantz and Guildenstern Are Dead from July 9th to August 3rd. And there you have it, your brisk orientation to Hamlet. If today's prologue piqued your curiosity, reserve your seats at pashakespeare.org or call the box office at 610-282-WILL. That's 610-282-9455. And come a bit early. For each of our Shakespeare productions, join us for a live event prologue starting 45 minutes before the show. We'll see you there.
And don't forget to follow As You Mic It in your favorite podcast app for more mini episodes, bonus content, and our live Community Day recording later this summer. Our heartfelt thanks to Chuck Gloman, Jarret Brown, and the entire TV film department of DeSales University for their ongoing support in bringing As You Mic It to life. We'll be back soon with another prologue to chart the next undiscovered country in our summer lineup. Until then, for Kim Carson, I'm Connie Berenger, reminding you that every choice guides us toward our own undiscovered country. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you at Labuda. Thank you for listening to As You Mic It, a Pennsylvania Shakespeare Festival presentation recorded on the beautiful campus of DeSales University. Our music is by Cedric Lamar, with hosts Jason King-Jones, Kim Carson, and Connie Berenger. For more information on our summer theater series, giving opportunities, tickets, and more, visit pashakespeare.org. Be sure to like, subscribe, and we'll see you at Labuda.
Behind every standing ovation is a network of patrons who know that theater changes lives. With tickets funding only half the cost, PSF counts on contributions to produce world-class theater, cultivate new audiences, and nurture future generations of artists. Give today at pashakespeare.org/support. Great theater is a collaboration both on stage and off.